waiting for you. One by one we will take you.
Tim,
What?
here we are, another of our top fives,
Oh my
which,
gosh.
if you've been listening to our top fives, know that you get a top 10 because there's two of us and we each pick five, right?
That's true. This is a slam-packed episode.
What are we doing this time, Tim? What are we doing?
Well, this time we are doing top horror and science fiction villain.
Ooh, the bad guy. So this was hard. We always preface with criteria. My criteria was I don't consider a group of people a villain. So these are actually people or individuals that are villains. My number 5 from one of my favorite movies of all time, and I know you like it as well, The Wrath of Khan. Villain in science fiction is Khan Noonien Singh, or as you're doing, as William Shatner says, Khan. Yeah.
Yes.
How can you not go wrong when you think of sci-fi villains? He should be in your top 5, definitely.
Yeah, he's a super soldier. He's kind of like a superhero from the 60s.
Genetically enhanced in the
Yeah.
90s. The 1990s is when his ship left Earth
Mhm.
after the eugenics war. Yeah, genetically superior to everyone.
And you can't beat
Marooned-
Ricardo Montalban and his skin, which is fine Corinthian leather. My number 5 is actually a double because I consider these very, very similar, and they are Michael Myers and Jason Voorhees. The reason I have both
Okay.
of these listed the same is because they're both somewhat indestructible.
Yes.
They never die and they keep coming back, whether it be Michael stalking you down a street or in a house with a knife, or Jason chasing you through the woods with a machete. You can kill them, but they're going to come back. They've done 10 plus movies each, just about.
Yeah, yeah.
So I'm gonna list them as my number 5.
Okay.
And they also both wear masks, which is also
Yes.
something very similar. They use tools that happen to be lying around to kill people. I mean,
Right,
that's
whatever.
why I have them both as the same. Because
My number 4 is a duel as well because they're both similar but different, but from the same franchise, which is the T-800 and the T-1000 Terminators.
yeah.
Again, how can you not, when you say sci-fi villain, how can you not think of I'll Be Back and the whole Terminator sort of franchise in general? But those two in particular, the T-800, just because it was the Schwarzenegger character when he was bad and the villain, not in the sequel when he became the good guy. The sequel, you had an even scarier version of that Terminator in the, the liquid metal sort of T-1000.
Killer, Mommy. Killer.
My number 4 is Freddy Krueger.
Number 4? Ooh.
Yeah.
Now I'm curious.
Well, he's from the dream world. So basically,
Mhm.
he can stalk you in reality and in the dream world. And in some rare cases, he could come into reality. So he has got some special powers.
Yes.
His humor may have diluted his scariness, I guess you would say, in some of the latter films until you cross to the end and look at Wes Craven's New Nightmare, where they tried to make him scary again.
Mhm.
Freddy, I think, is a very worthy foe as far as a villain because of the fact that he can get you while you're sleeping.
Very worthy. I just thought he would be higher on your list. So now I'm curious about the rest of your list. My number 3 for villain is Agent Smith from The Matrix. So
That's a good one.
And the whole Matrix franchise, since he works all through the franchise. An excellent villain, especially in the Matrix. Just the way he's portrayed, he's always there. He is a perfect foil for Neo and Neo's hero journey. So yeah, loved it. Agent Smith is just very scary, but also very science fiction.
And very much like Michael Myers and Jason Voorhees, not only is he indestructible, but he can replicate himself.
Yes, very formidable villain. Yes.
3 in both the literary and the cinematic world, and that would be Pennywise from It.
Ooh, okay.
Pennywise is one of those villains that's supernatural and can turn your own fears against you.
Mm-hmm.
So he makes your worst nightmare manifest, or he manifests your worst nightmares. And I just think that takes him maybe a step above Freddy Krueger.
Interesting. Yeah, because he can manifest more in the real world than Freddy. That's definitely true. Pennywise is terrifying in the book. I mean, scary. Even in multiple reads, you go, oh my gosh. My number 2, again, going to a non-corporeal and it's corporeal, but non-human creature is Hal 9000. I think one of the most impressive villains ever in just the fact that he's supposed to be the one you trust, that these astronauts rely on everything else, and he has his own agenda. And that agenda is very cold and very calculating, even to the point of we don't really understand what it is. Because in 2001, we really don't know what causes Hal to do what he does, but it's horrific and it propels the story. And he's a great foil. He's a great antagonist to the characters.
Well, and his voice intonation. Is it's pleasant and horrifying at the same time.
I'm sorry, Dave. I'm afraid I can't do that.
Why are you torturing me like this?
My number 2, I kind of cross into sci-fi a little bit with this one, but I definitely cross more into the reality, away from the dreams and the nightmares, and that would be the Invisible Man. Because how can you fight what you cannot see?
Right.
You can't.
Yep.
So if they're in the room with you, and of course, a lot of this was based on the fact that I saw that Elizabeth Moss version of The Invisible Man recently. And that is just how scary it is, because all of a sudden there could be a fire on the stove because you had something cooking there, or, a knife can come flying through the air and stab you because you don't know this person is in the room with you. It's also very intrusive, I guess you'd say, because, they can be watching you without
permission.
Yeah, exactly. Exactly. They could be stalking you, spying on you, watching everything you did. And in the first film, that we covered, the Universal Classic, he made a train go off the tracks and kill thousands of people.
Oh, yeah.
So,
yeah. I kind of have to apologize for my number 1 because it's kind of like a, on the nose sort of no-brainers sort of thing, because it makes so many people's lists. And I tried to defy it and move my list around, but I kept going, it's got to be. It just has to be. So if you were talking about what is the number 1 science fiction villain in film, it's Darth Vader. I mean, he's just so iconic, from the design to the entrance to humanizing him by the end of the original trilogy and giving him actually, there's really a person underneath this horrible menace to the galaxy. Kills the mentor, chases the hero.
It's kind of weird seeing all these Star Wars reboots, because it shows you, even though he is the big villain of the universe, they still outwit him. And it's the same with everyone I've listed on my list. I mean, Michael Myers and Jason Voorhees get outwitted, Freddy Krueger and Pennywise, because if not, you wouldn't have happy endings.
It's not that they have to have a happy ending, but they have to hopefully have some kind of fight with the hero or heroine.
I mean, Darth Vader is always overcome, and the Invisible Man is always overcome. They throw paint on him. Well, my number 1 is still grounded in the real world, other than the fact that he's a fictional character, and that would be Hannibal Lecter.
Oh, man.
Basically, he's a genius, and he can pull off just about anything, even if it involves mind games and playing with you. Love the original book, love the original movie, and Anthony Hopkins' characterization, but I also love is it Mads Mikkelsen? Yeah,
Mads Mikkelsen in the series.
Yeah, on the series. Yeah. Fantastic work. He is my absolute favorite villain of all time, for sure.
I think you're totally right in that. That is, and I agree with you, just because I love Anthony Hopkins. I love the portrayal. I loved the original books. Madge is good too. I even liked Brian Cox, who played him in Manhunter. It's that character. And like you said, a perfect villain, because he is so smart, but also so diabolically twisted. He's eating a guy's brain while he's still alive. I mean, that is just, what? Who thought of this? That's great. Yeah.
And I meant to tell you, I agreed with your number 1 too. Like I said, even though these villains are always overcome, I can't imagine picking a a stronger number one villain than Darth Vader for science fiction. Yeah.
Of course. Yeah. I just think it's a gimme kind of thing. I did have a few honorable mentions.
Okay.
So I've got 3, and these almost made my list, but not quite. Some of them I kind of wish I had, but they're all unique. Number 3 on my honorable mention is Dr. Zaius from Planet of the Apes.
Yeah.
A great foil all the way through it.
He's politically a foil.
He is constantly putting Taylor in a bad position,
Yeah.
no matter what.
And lying to everybody,
Lying to everybody.
the political
about
game. Yeah.
What do you hope to find out there? It's just great. And my number 2, Immortan Joe from Fury Road.
Oh, yeah.
A great villain, very memorable. Not that Thunderdome wasn't memorable, or some of his other villains in the Mad Max universe weren't villainous, but Immortan Joe just has so much power and presence from his first, the first time we see him and he's getting boils lanced on his back, and then they're putting him in armor, and he's got that skull mask and just everything he does. Great villain. Mm-hmm. And then my number 1 honorable mention is Roy Batty from Blade Runner.
Oh, yeah.
I wanted him to be in, but he doesn't have as much screen time power, I think, as some of the other ones I picked. So that's
he's somewhat sympathetic, which is I'm going to get to in a minute too.
Yeah.
Honorable mentions on my end. I wanted to say Ghostface from Scream because anybody that could run around in that very awkward costume and stab and kill people and just be everywhere at once. And Pinhead from the Hellraiser universe.
Yes, good one.
He, like Freddy Krueger or Pennywise, not necessarily nightmares. He's interdimensional, so he could be somewhat of a villain or a reputable foe. However, you have to call him. So it's not as scary. I mean, you have to pick up the lament configuration and do the puzzle to call him. Mm-hmm. And, I'm not going to do that.
I'm not going to do that.
No. And then like Pinhead, I also mentioned Candyman. Same premise. You have to call him by repeating his name 5 times in front of a mirror or he's not coming. I'm not going to do that. So I don't have to worry about Candyman.
No.
But I do have another list of why these are not villains, even though when you Google villains from these movies, it says these are villains. And I don't understand this. One is Dracula. I don't think Dracula is a great villain at all because he can't come out in the daytime. Crosses will back him off, holy water, what have you. So to me, Dracula is pretty safe.
Well, I mean, I could consider him on a list of horror villains. I mean, you would go with almost all the classic movie monsters, the Universal monsters.
Funny that you should
say that. But then again, a monster, I mean, to me, the part of being a villain is making the decision to be a villain.
Part of my criteria, I guess, was being a formidable foe.
Right. Formidable foe is a good criteria. Yes, I agree with you.
And to me, Dracula's not. I mean, even though he can mesmerize you, I guess, if you let him in your house, but he has to be invited in. So I'm not going to invite him in.
Right.
2 in this category also are Jaws and the Creature from the Black Lagoon. They are animals. They don't count.
Right.
Then you've got Leatherface, who to me is somewhat sympathetic because he seems to be a special needs type person that really doesn't know what he's doing. He's just obeying what his family tells him to do. You have the Mummy and the Frankenstein monster and Carrie and Jack Torrance and the Wolfman. They are all victims. They're
so
not
well said.
Villains.
Yes, so well said.
I was like, why do they list these as villains? Yeah, they're bad guys, I guess, in a sense, but to me, they're not really villains.
I think that's great. And we maybe should have prefaced that criteria at the beginning, because I do think a classic villain has to make a choice. They know right from wrong, and they are choosing wrong because wrong makes them happy or whatever. An animal does not really. They're just instinctual doing their thing. A creature is usually created in some way and is just instinctual. And other ones that may be doing bad things, but they're the victim of somebody else. Jack Torrance is a great example. Jack is the antagonist of the piece, but it's not his fault, really. He's being manipulated. Yeah, Carrie's the same way. Yeah. Yeah.
So it's funny, a lot of Stephen King characters, as well as a lot of Universals, the Mummy, he is, killed by whoever the evil person is in Egypt and mummified. And then comes
of course.
Back.
That's a curse.
Yeah, it's a curse. And then Frankenstein's monster's created, and he doesn't know that it's bad to throw that girl in the water.
Right.
Yeah, maybe that's what you do with flowers. That's what you do with children. I don't know. Anyway, so
Well, I had that
was-
same kind of thing too, because you Google villain, best sci-fi villain, and number, it comes up and says the Daleks from Doctor Who, and I'm going, that's not a villain, that's a bad guy. It's a race of bad guys. Or they say the Borg from Star Trek. I'm going, no, that's not a villain. They're bad guys, but so are the Klingons. But that doesn't make them a villain.
No,
a villain
you need
is a
an individual.
singular personality that has made a choice to be evil. That's it, Tim. That's our top 10 plus 3 plus 3 plus 5 plus 2.
Yeah, they kind of grow out of control when we do these. Thank all you guys out there for listening to us.
Yes.
You can catch other top fives on our YouTube channel. Johnny Has the Keys, as well as shows like Coming to Get You, where we have sneak previews of things coming soon to a streaming platform or theater near you. Or you can catch Shudder with Tim episodes, which are films that I've watched on Shudder, which I do quite often if you know me.
What?
And until next time, David.
Yep. We'll see you with another 5.
You can't start the car. Johnny has the keys.